Why doesn't Venom have a spider logo? Are Sony's new films part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe? And how do you make so many Spider-Man movies without Spidey? Hold on to your butts, folks. We've got our own wild theory you're gonna wanna hear. This is Fandom News. Sony recently announced plans for its extended Spider-Man-based cinematic universe, which sounds like it'll be really exciting to see Spider-Man go up against all of these famous villains, like Kraven the Hunter and Morbius. Except, Spidey might not be a part of it. Like, at all. Or maybe eventually? It's a bit confusing. So let's rewind and talk about how we got here. So, back in February 2015, Sony and Marvel announced a deal to make the rebooted Spider-Man franchise part of the MCU. Great, cool, so Spidey and the Avengers team up? It's all connected now, right? Not quite. As it turns out, the deal was only for Spider-Man, not everything else, which means the some 900 characters that Sony has the rights to are not automatically included. Flash forward to 2017 when Sony announced production of a standalone Venom movie. When asked if Venom was part of the MCU, Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige said no, and Sony film chief Amy Pascal said yes. The two studio heads got onto the same page a few days later and changed that answer to no, but with the caveat of never say never, giving us a big fat maybe. As the months have ticked by and we've seen more of Venom, Sony has continued to push the message that this is a film sans Spider-Man. Furthering the confusion, Sony announced this week that they are going forward with multiple films about Spidey's supporting cast of friends, enemies, love interests, and love interest frenemies. These include well-known characters like Kraven the Hunter, Black Cat, and Silver Sable, plus a bunch of cool, diverse, albeit lesser-known characters like Silk and Jackpot. Plus, our favorite, a film starring Jared Leto about the scenery-chewing vampire Morbius. This guy.
My hand!
You remember that? Felicia! All of these movies are under the umbrella of films being called the Sony Universe of Marvel Characters, or SUMC. Well, that rolls off the tongue. This news seems to have further separated the Tom Holland Spider-Man films from these spin-offs, since they're all being touted as standalone stories without the web crawler. So here's where our big what-if theory comes into play. We've gone all conspiracy theory, piecing these weird bits of news together. It seems crazy that Sony would build a whole universe of characters who are famous for their relationship to Spider-Man, and then not use them. And while it's possible that they plan to slowly introduce them to the MCU films, we think something else might be up. We're proposing that Venom and all the rest of these Rogues Gallery films that Sony has announced are not part of the MCU at all, meaning they will not have Tom Holland in them. They'll have a different Spider-Man. See, Sony's other Spider-Man project is the animated film Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is introducing the concept of multiple Spider-Men and women in different realities. The Spider-Verse has actually become a fairly large part of Spidey's mythos, and Sony is clearly getting us used to the concept in a fun, approachable way. The Venom movie is already taking notes from the Ultimate Spider-Man run of the comics, at least in the character design. So the idea that it's a separate universe doesn't seem far-fetched. This also gives Sony the opportunity to introduce a live-action Miles Morales or Spider-Gwen. Think how cool it would be to have an awesome Peter Parker and an awesome additional Spidey character. We're really hoping Sony's seemingly unfounded confidence in this spin-off endeavor is because they have something really cool like this up their sleeve. What do you think? Do you want multiple Spider-Mans on the big screen? Are you hoping for an SUMC MCU crossover? Let us know in the comments. Let us know in the comments. That wraps it for today's news. I'm Jack, and for everything on the ever-expanding cinematic universes that threaten to swallow up all of pop culture, keep watching Fandom.